Hi, I'm student 35 of CE 545, and for today, I'll be talking about the Dpwh Bluebook item 610 to 612. Item 610, Sodding 610.1. Description: this item shall consist of furnishing and laying of live sod on the shoulders, slopes, ditches, or other locations as designated. Construction of sod ditch checks or similar appurtenance, as shown on the plans or as ordered and laid out in the field by the engineer, all in accordance with this specification. So 610.2, Material Requirements. Sod shall consist of healthy, dense, well-rooted growth of permanent and desirable indigenous grasses to the general locality where it is to be used, and shall be free from weeds and undesirable grasses. At the time the sod is cut, the grass on the sod shall have a length of approximately 50 millimeters, and the sod shall have been raked from debris. The sod shall be cut into uniform squares approximately 300 millimeters by 300 millimeters. The thickness of the sod shall be uniform as possible, approximately 40 millimeters or more, depending on the nature of the sod, so that practically all of the dense root system of the grass will be retained but exposed in the sod strip, and that the sod can be handled without undue tearing or breaking. In the event the sod to be cut is in a dry condition as to cause crumbling or breaking during cutting operations, the contractor, at his own expense, shall apply water in sufficient quantities at least 12 hours before cutting to provide a well-moistened condition of the sod to the depth to which it is to be cut. Sod shall be subject to the approval of the engineer. So next is 610.3, which is the construction requirements. So under the section 610.3 is the 610.3.1, which is the preparation of the earth bed. The area to be sodded shall be constructed to the required cross-section and contour, and the tops and bottoms of the slope shall be rounded as shown in a typical roadway section. The areas to be sodded shall be free from stones, roots, or other undesirable foreign materials. The soil on the area to be sodded shall be loosened and brought to a reasonably fine texture to a depth of not less than 30 mm by means of the equipment on the hand methods adopted for the purpose. The earth bed upon which the sod is to be placed shall be moistened to the loosened depth, if not naturally sufficiently moist, and the sod shall be placed thereon within 24 hours after the same has been cut. Unless otherwise required, the sod on slopes shall be laid on horizontal strips, beginning at the bottom of the slope and working upwards. When placing sod in ditches or in construction of sod ditch checks or similar appurtenance, the length of the strip shall be laid at the right angles to the direction of the flow of the water. So in constructing sod, or in placing the sod in a slopey area, you should start from the bottom and working upwards. Sod shall be laid so that the joints caused by abutting ends of the sod strips are not continuous. Each sod strips shall be laid as to abut snugly against the strip previously laid. As the sod is being laid, it shall be lightly tamped with suitable wooden or metal tampers sufficiently to set or press the sod into the underlying soil. So, a tamper, wooden or metal tampers, usually looks like this one in the photo. At points where it is anticipated that water may flow over a sodded area, the upper edges of the sod strips shall be turned into the soil to be below the adjacent area, and a layer of earth placed over this juncture and thoroughly compacted. At the limits of sodded areas, the end strips shall be turned in and treated similarly. On all slopes steeper than 1 vertical to 4 horizontal, sod shall be pegged with stakes 200 to 300 mm in length, spaced as required by the nature of the soil and steepness of slope. Stakes shall be driven into the sod at right angles to the slope until flush with the bottom of the grass blades. So next, under the 610.3 is the 610.3.4, which is top dressing. After staking has been complete, the surface shall be cleared of loose sod, excess soil, or other foreign material, whereupon a thin layer of topsoil shall be scattered over the sod as top dressing, and the area shall be thoroughly moistened by sprinkling water. So next is 610.3.5, which is watering. The contractor shall regularly water and maintain sodded areas in a satisfactory condition for the duration of the contract and until final acceptance of the work by the engineer. So basically, the contractor is responsible for the sodded area to be like in a satisfactory condition and will only be accepted by the engineer. So next is the 610.4, which is method of measurement. Sodding shall be measured by the square meter, and the quantity to be measured for payment shall be the actual number of square meters of an area on which sod has been placed in accordance with this specification and within the limits of construction as designated on the plans or as ordered by the engineer. Next is the 610.5, which is the basis of payment. The quantity as determined in the subsection 610.4, which is the method of measurement, shall be paid for a contract unit price per square meter for sodding, which price and payment shall be full compensation for preparing the earth bed, for furnishing, placing, staking, top dressing, and watering the sod, and for all labor, equipment, tools, and incidental necessary to complete the item. So basically, the basis of the payment is the unit, of course, the unit price per square meter of the sodding, and of course, the labor that was done when from the earth bed to the furnishing, to the placing, to the staking, to the top dressing, until to the watering of the sod, and of course for the equipment and tools that are used to complete the sodding. So now we're moving on to the next item, item 611, which is tree planting. 611.1 Description. This item shall consist of furnishing and planting deciduous shade, flowering trees, and evergreen trees that shall be less than 150 millimeters in diameter on the areas and in the arrangements indicated on the plans or as indicated by the engineer, including the digging and preparation of pocket holes, furnishing and placing the necessary topsoil, mulch, water, fertilizer, and other incidentals necessary to complete the item. So under 611.2 is the material requirements. So 611.2.1 Topsoil. So topsoil shall conform to the requirements of the item 608 topsoil. So this topsoil shall be able to conform the requirements which are written on the item 608 that was the report before mine. So it's clearly discussed there, so just go and check that out. So 611.2.2 Mulching. Mulching material shall consist of approved wood chips, ground or crushed corn cobs, wood shavings, sawdust or peat moss. Wood chips shall be combination of wood slivers with ground wood or sawdust. Bracing stakes for plants shall be 50 millimeters by 50 millimeters of rough wood free from unsound loose knots, rot, cross-grain, and sapwoods or other defects that may impair its strength. So basically, when you are making a bracing stakes for plants, the rough wood should be in the best condition, that it will not have any defects that could impair its strength. So next is anchor stakes shall be of the same quality as bracing stakes and of the size specified under operations calling for their use. Wrapping materials for trees shall be waterproof paper or burlap. The tying material to be used in wrapping trees shall be jute twine or similar material not less than 2-ply for trees 7.5 millimeters or less in diameter, and 3-ply for trees over 7.5 millimeter in diameter. The wire to be used in bracing trees 7.5 millimeters or less in diameter shall be 3 millimeters or number 11 galvanized steel wire, and for trees over 75 millimeters in diameter, 40 mm or number 9 of galvanized steel wire shall be used. All wires shall be new and free from bends or kinks. So next is 611.2.3, which is trees. All trees furnished under this item shall be 150 mm or less in diameter and shall be true to name and type and shall follow standard names of trees in accordance with the Bureau of Forestry standards as adopted by the Department of Public Works and Highways. When specified in the provisions, certain varieties of plants will be furnished by the government. The contractor shall submit complete and detailed information concerning the source of supply for each item of plant materials before planting operations. All existing laws and regulations requiring inspection for plant diseases and infections shall be complied with, and each delivery shall be accompanied by necessary certificates of clearance to be presented to the engineer. So, basically, when you're planning to furnish like a construction with trees, plants, you basically need papers or certificates of clearance, and you need to present it to the engineer in charge. Root condition of plants furnished by the contractor in containers shall be determined by the removal of earth from the roots of not less than 2 plants nor more than 2% of the total number of plants of each species or variety, except when container-grown plants are from several sources. The roots of not less than 2 plants of each species or variety from each source will be inspected by the engineer. In case the sample plants inspected are found to be defective, the government reserves the right to reject the entire lot or lots of plants represented by defective samples. Any plant rendered unsuitable for planting because of this inspection will be considered as samples and will not be paid for. So basically, if the plants have defects or it's not in a good quality or in a good condition, so the samples are defective, so the government will not pay for those samples. So next is 611.3, which is the construction methods. So under 611.3 is 611.3.1, which is balling of plants and trees. So balling is employed in plants and trees to be transplanted or transferred. To ball out the tree, the depth to which the root system reach is first determined. Digging around the tree is then done, being careful not to cut many roots. Watering the soil before balling is prohibited. The surface of the earth is kept as smooth as possible. After the tree is dug out, the roots and the earth is wrapped immediately with the sacking material. The tree could now be tipped over and rolled into a new location. These plants shall be hauled by the ball only and not by the plant itself. The slightest indication of manufactured earth balls or hauling of the plants itself will be a cause for rejection of such plants. So this picture here is what balling of plants and trees looks like. So next is 611.3.2, which is digging plants. All plants, nursery grown or collected, shall be dug with care and skill immediately before shipping and avoiding all possible injury to the plants. Loss or damage of the roots, particular attention being given to fibrous roots in this respect. After the plants are dug, their roots shall not be permitted to dry out. They shall not be exposed to hot temperatures. All plants shall be dug in dormant state and shall be held until planted. So in digging plants, before shipping it or transporting the plants, it requires skill, and hindi lang siya basta-basta na hukayin lang. It should be careful to avoid any injuries to the plants. 611.3.3 Temporary storage and plant spray. So after the delivery and the inspection, so after the delivery, the shipping, transportation of the plants shall be sprayed with an approved anti-desiccant prior to planting, healing in, or storing, except in case of collected stock which shall not be healed in or stored, shall be sprayed with anti-desiccant immediately and planted within 36 hours after digging. So there is a specific hours on how long before you can plant there's a duration on how long you should plant na the tree or the plant that you have transported. It should be 36 hours after digging. The spray shall cover both upper and lower surfaces of the branches and foliage to the point of runoff. Spray nozzle shall be the type to produce a fine mist. So dapat ang spray na gigamit is katong makaproduce og fine mist. The ball of soil and roots of bulb or burlap plants, if not immediately planted after delivery and inspection, shall be adequately protected by topsoil covering until removed for planting in a manner appropriate to the conditions and satisfactory to the engineer. So just what like I said, na if the plant wasn't immediately planted, there are other ways to like preserve the plant until you can actually plant it na. Such emergency storage of plants shall be at the entire risk of the contractor, including maintenance of same. 611.3.4 The layout of planting. Before digging pocket holes or beds, the contractor shall lay out by suitable staking the location of all pocket holes and beds. The layout of planting shall be approved by the engineer. So the contractor is responsible for the layout of planting and shall be approved by the engineer. 611.3.5 Roots and Top Pruning. The ends of all broken or damaged roots 600 mm diameter or larger shall be pruned with a clean cut, removing no more than the injured portion. All plants shall be pruned to balance the top with the root system, keeping the natural shape of the species. All dead woods shall be removed. All cuts and wounds 12 mm or over in diameter shall be painted with pre-wound dressing immediately after the pruning. So pruning is basically removing the injured portions of the roots and only the injured portions. Next is 611.3.6, which is pocket holes. Pocket holes shall be dug at the location shown on the plans or as directed by the engineer. The hole shall be dug to the depth and cross-section specified and should be sufficient size to provide for not less than 150 mm of topsoil backfill beneath and around the root system. The hole shall be dug with the sides vertical. Surplus excavation from the bed and pocket holes shall be disposed of as directed by the engineer. Next is 611.3.7 is backfill. So after the pocket holes na plant ng plants, of course, you need to backfill it with topsoil as each plant is set. The topsoil shall be well tamped by the workers' feet, rods, or other approved tamping device as it shoveled into the holes. The backfill in the holes on slope shall be built up on lower side to catch and hold water. During planting and topsoil surrounding the plant be slightly depressed to hold water. Next is 611.3.8, which is planting. The plants to be planted shall be the species, variety, and size specified. The operation of the actual planting shall not be performed at any time when the soil is not friable or workable condition. The engineer shall also approve the location of each individual plant, taking into consideration its size and shape in order that the best possible arrangement will result. So, during planting, you should not just magplant lang ka, dili dapat ingato. Dapat ang soil na imuhang, ang butangan sa imong plant and all, dapat siya in the best possible condition siya para ang result is makuha nimo ang satisfiable result sa imuhang arrangement sa imuhang plants. One plant shall be planted in the center of each pocket hole and in the arrangement shown on the plans. The plants shall be set on tamped soil, backfilled, brought to the height necessary to the plant to plant them. At the same depth they grew, carefully spreading out the roots of barefoot stalk in their natural position. Upright plants shall be kept in a vertical position. After placing the plant in the hole, the backfill shall be carefully made, tamping with the worker's feet and with round end rods or other approved tamping device to ensure topsoil in and about all the roots. The topsoil shall be settled in and about the plant roots by application of water, but at no time shall tamping or further topsoil backfill be made while this wet topsoil backfill is a consistency that would permit it being compacted or pulled by doing so. All compaction shall be such no plant will settle lower than the depth above specified. No air pocket shall be left around the root of any plant. So basically, this is the steps on how you should plant the plants that are in the plants. So after filling halfway of the earth ball, the burlap shall be loosened and the top half cut off and removed, after which the balance of the pocket hole shall be backfilled and tamped. After planting and prior to mulching, fertilizer shall be applied evenly over the top of the backfilled area. Care shall be used so that fertilizers does not get into contact with the stem branches or leaves of the plant. So under the planting is the tree planting along National Road, which is 611.3.8.1. So the trees to be used for this purpose shall be the varieties, the root systems of which grow downward rather than sideward to avoid situations where the roots spread sideward and consistently destroy the road and sidewalk slabs. So basically, in tree planting along the National Road, kanang makita nato sa mga kalsada ng mga plants, naapod na sila ginasunod na rules and specifications, which is dapat ang roots na sa plants na ilang itanom dara will grow downward and not sideward to avoid the destruction of roads and sidewalks. Trees shall be planted in a neat row within the road right-of-way and as close as possible to the ROW limit, with sufficient allowance so that the trees, when fully grown, will not encroach on the adjoining property or touch electric and other overhead utility lines. The center-to-center spacing between trees shall be 10 to 20 meters. For road sections with a general north-south alignment, the trees on one side of the road shall be staggered vis-a-vis the trees on the other side of the road. The arrangement will help to ensure that enough sunlight will fall on the road and thus help keep the road dry even during rainy season. So we are now on 611.3.9, which is mulching. So we're done with tree planting. So within 24 hours after planting, mulching material shall be spread to cover the plant hole and the area 150 mm outside the periphery of the plant hole. The depth and application for wood chips shall be a minimum of 150 mm for ground or crushed corn cobs. Sawdust or peat moss, the minimum depth shall be 100 mm. So next is 611.3.10, which is watering and maintenance. So all plants shall be watered during the planting operations, subject to direction and approval of the engineer. From time to time, during the life of the contract, sufficient water shall be applied so that not only will the topsoil backfill about each plant be kept moist, but also for the moisture to extend into the surrounding soil. So the contractor shall, during the life of the contract, properly care for all plants furnished, planted, or stored, performing such watering, weeding, cultivating, or other ordinary maintenance work as shall be necessary to keep the stock in a live and healthy condition. Plants which have died back into the crown or beyond a normal pruning line shall be replaced by the contract at no additional expense to the government. Next is 611.3.11, which is bracing. All deciduous and evergreen trees shall be braced immediately after planting. Deciduous trees from 1.2 meters to 1.8 meters in height shall have one vertical support stake. Deciduous tree from 1.8 meters to 2.5 meters in height shall have two vertical support stakes. Bolt and burlap deciduous or evergreen trees within the above size ranges shall be supported with the number of stakes specified for the group, but instead of being placed vertically, shall be driven so that the stake does not enter or contact the earth ball around the plant roots. The stake or stakes shall be placed that after driven in place, the upper foot of the stake is within approximately 100 millimeters of the trunk at one half of the height of the tree. If two are required, they shall be driven on opposite sides of the tree with the stake tops on opposite side for fastening. Next is 611.4 or the method of measurement. The quantity to be paid for shall be the number of trees of each species or variety called for in the plants planted. So next is 611.5, which is the basis of payment. So the quantities as determined in the subsection 611.4 or the method of measurement shall be paid for at the contract unit price of each species or variety furnished, planted and accepted, which price and payment shall be constitute full compensation for furnishing all labor, tools, and incidentals necessary to complete the item. So, ang basis sa payment is depende sa tree na nasabutan or trees na nasa plano, species or variety sa plant na sa contract. So, this is the table. So, payment will be made under, so, we have this payment number which is 611, the first one, and 611, the second one. So, description sa 611 na pinakauna is the trees furnishing and transplanting. So, unit of measurement is each tree, which sa trees na transplanting is still the same. Each tree gyapon ang basis of payment. So next, this is our last item. So this is item 612, which is the reflective thermoplastic stripping material or solid form. So 612.1 is the description. This standard specifies the requirement for reflectorized thermoplastic pavement stripping materials conforming to AAS2 M249 that is applied to the road surface in a molten state by mechanical means with surface application of glass beds at a rate of not less than 350 grams per liter of glass beads having a size range of drop-in type and will produce an adherent reflectorized stripe of specified thickness and width capable of resisting deformation by traffic. So there is a photo attached, and that is the example of reflectorized thermoplastic pavement stripping. So next is 612.2, which is material requirements. Reflectorized thermoplastic pavement material shall be homogeneously composed of pigment, filler, resins, and glass reflectoring spheres. The thermoplastic material shall be available to both white and yellow. Kaya diba, syempre, sa ato ang pavement, the lines or the color of the lines used are usually yellow and white. So number 2 is glass beads or the premix shall be uncoated and shall comply with the following requirements. So what are the requirements? So these are the requirements. The refractive index minimum is 150. And the spheres percent is 90. So gradation, the sieve millimeter is 0.85, 0.6, 0.425, 0.3, 0.18, and 0.15. And their corresponding mass percent passing is in the other side, which is 175 to 95, and then not available, and then 15 to 35, and then nothing, and then 0 to 5. So when you need the reference to glass beads or premix, you go to the section 612.2, and you can see here the following requirements for glass beads. So next is 612.3, which is the general requirements. So under 612.3 is 612.3.1, which is the composition. The pigment beads and fillers shall be uniformly dispersed in the resin. The material shall be free from all skin, dirt, and foreign objects and shall comply with the requirements as specified in Table 612.1, which was the table, this table. So, under this table 612.1, this is the composition requirements. It has the components, which are binder, glass beads, titanium, dioxide, chrome yellow, minimum, medium, calcium carbonate, and inert fillers. So, you can see it has different requirements sa yellow and sa white. So, you can refer here at table 612.1 for the composition requirements of the pigment yellow and white. So next is 612.3.2, which is qualitative. So the material shall conform to the qualitative requirements as specified in table 612.2, which is this one. So here in this table 612.2, you can refer to this when you're looking for the quality or qualitative requirements. This has the property, and the corresponding table has the requirements for yellow and for both yellow and white na pigment. So next is the 612.4, or the application of properties. The material shall be readily extruded at a temperature of 211 positive or negative 7 degrees Celsius from approved equipment to produce a line of 3.2 to 4.8 mm thick, which shall be continuous and uniform in shape, having clear and sharp dimensions. The material shall not exude fumes which are toxic, obnoxious, or injurious to the person or property when heated during applications. The application of additional glass beads by dropped-in method shall be at a rate of not less than 350 grams per liter of glass beads having a size range for drop-in type. The typical size range of spheres of drop-in type paints is as follows. So, ang passing sa 850 micrometers or na number 20 na sieve, and ma-retain on a 250 or the number 60 na sieve is 80% to 100%. So next, so under the application properties is the preparation of road surface. So preparation of road surface. The material should be applied only on the surface which is clean and dry. It shall not be laid into loose detritus, mud, or similar extraneous matter, or over an old paint markings, or over an old thermoplastic markings which is faulty. In the case of smooth, polished surface stones, such as smooth concretes, old asphalt surfacing with smooth polished surface stones, and or where the method of application of the manufacturer of the thermoplastic materials shall be recommended, and with the approval of the engineer. It shall always have the approval of the engineer. Next is the preparation of thermoplastic materials. The material shall be melted in accordance with the manufacturer's instruction in a heater fitted with a mechanical stirrer to give a smooth consistency to the thermoplastics, and such the local overheating shall be avoided. The temperature of the mass shall be within the range specified by the manufacturer and shall on no account be allowed to exceed the maximum temperature stated by the manufacturer. The molten material shall be used as expeditiously as responsible, and for thermoplastics which have natural resin, blinders, or otherwise sensitive to prolonged heating, and materials shall not be maintained in a molten condition more than 4 hours. Laying. Center lines, lane lines, and edges lines shall be applied by approved mechanical means and shall be laid in regular alignment. Other markings may be applied by hand, screed, hand-propelled machine, or self-propelled machine, approved or directed, of course, by the engineer. After transfer to the laying apparatus, the material shall be maintained within the temperature range specified by the manufacturer and steered to maintain the right consistency of laying. Next is reuse of thermoplastic materials. At the end of the days, as much as possible, the material remaining in the heater and or laying apparatus shall be removed. This may be broken and used again provided that the maximum heating temperature has not been exceeded and that the total time during which it is a molten condition does not exceed the requirements of subsection 606.2.3 construction requirements. So, pwede ka mag-reuse of thermoplastic materials depending on such circumstances na gipang-ingon nila or depending sa kung wala siya nag-exceed sa requirements na nakabutang sa subsection 606.2.3. Under the 612.4 is the 612.4.1, which is defective materials or workmanship. Materials which are defective or have been applied in an unsatisfactory manner or to incorrect dimensions or in wrong location shall be removed. The road pavement shall be made good, materials replaced, reconstructed, and or properly located, all at the contractor's expense and to the satisfaction of the engineer. So next is 612.4.2. The protection of the traffic. The contractor shall protect pedestrians, vehicles, and other traffic adjacent to the working area against damage or disfigurement by construction equipment, tools, and materials, or by spatters, splashes, or smirches, or paint or other construction materials, and during the course of the work, provide and maintain adequate signs and signals for the warning and guidance of the traffic. So, para dili kaayo sa makadisturbo sa road, so they need to like put signs and signals and secure the pedestrians and vehicles that are passing near the construction work. Next is the 612.5, which is sampling. A minimum weight of 10 kilograms of reflectorized thermoplastic paint shall be taken for every 100 bags or fraction thereof. Next is 612.6, which is testing. The materials shall be tested in accordance with AASH2 T250 or with the appropriate method in ASTM designation. 612.7, packing and marking. The material shall be packed in a suitable container to which it will not adhere during shipment and storage. The blocks of cast thermoplastic material shall be approximately 300 by 915 by 51 millimeters and shall weigh approximately 23 kilograms. Each container label shall designate the color, manufacturer's name, batch number, and date of manufacture. Each batch manufactured shall have its own separate number. The label shall warn the user that the material shall be heated to 211 positive negative 7 degrees Celsius during application. 612.8, method of measurement. The quantity of pavement markings to be paid for shall be the area as shown on the plans of painted traffic line of the stated width and the area as shown on the plans of symbols, lettering, hatching, and the like completed and accepted. The quantity shown in the bill of quantities represents the approximate quantity in square meter of pavement markings, with as shown applied at the center line of the road pavements, to which may be increased or decreased depending on the engineer's decision whether to require additional markings or delete parts of it. Other markings representing symbols, lettering, hatching, and others in other location where they may be required by the engineer shall likewise be implemented by the contractor using reflectorized thermoplastic pavement markings as approved and directed, of course, again by the engineer. Next is 612.9, which is the basis of payment. The quantities measured as determined in the subsection 612.8, which is the method of measurement, shall be paid for the appropriate contract unit price for the pay item shown in the bid schedule, which price and payment shall constitute full compensation for furnishing and placing all materials, sampling, and packing, for the preparation of the surface, and for the labor, equipment, tools, and incidentals necessary to complete the item. So here is a table which is payment will be made under. So their payment item 612.1, which is the reflectorized thermoplastic pavement markings white, and the 612.2 is the reflectorized thermoplastic pavement markings yellow. So both of their unit measurement is in square meters. So that's it for this video. Thank you for watching.